You're still just the tailor's boy.
Better luck with your next job.
Those people will never accept us.
This isn't the life I promised you. Not even close.
But I have everything I want.
Girls, I think I've had an idea. I'm putting together a show.
It's a place where people can see things they've never seen before. Okay.
Who's that?
And what is your act?
I don't have an act.
Everyone's got an act.
People aren't gonna like it if you put us on the stage.
Oh, I'm counting on it.
I believe those are the words of a scoundrel.
A showman. Whistling just a showman. Don't listen to them. They don't understand yet. But they will.
So tell me, do you wanna go where it's covered in all the colored lights, where the runaways are running the night? Impossible comes true. It's taking over you.
Does it bother you that everything you're selling is fake?
Did these smiles seem fake?
We have more protesters every day.
I tried to freaks.
You're risking everything you've built.
Well, how do you think I built it?
The world was ashamed of us. But you put us in the spotlight. You gave us a real family.
Have you no shame?
Father, the world is changing.
No one ever made a difference by being like everyone else.
Guys, so excited to have Paul Sparks here. Give him a round of applause here. Talk about The Greatest Showman in Waco, a couple other projects, obviously.
Yeah.
Such a catchy song. Even that trailer, man. The whole movie is catchy songs. How was it? How'd the script come by you?
Yeah, to be able to sing, right? Luckily, I didn't have to do any of that on
Play
the
the
show.
counter. You play a bit of the curmudgeon, as you said, against it.
I'm the wet blanket on the whole place. No, I was introduced to Michael Gracie, who directed it and was sort of with this project, I think, for maybe 8 or 9 years. He was there for a long time. He and Hugh had worked on it. They'd worked on the script, and it's an interesting process when you meet with Michael because he had never made a film before, I don't think, and so he'd done a lot of CGI and that kind of thing, and he brought you into his office, and he literally performed it, and he had storyboarded the entire movie. Like the whole thing was
performed it for you, like
kind of. He was singing it, and he was playing music from it, and a lot of the songs had been recorded, or there were versions of it that had been recorded, and really for me, the music was so good and moving to listen to. And he said to me, he said, "Listen, if you go home and you don't wake up tomorrow morning singing these songs," he's like, "don't do it." He's like, because then we're lost. And so so that was how I sort of came across it.
And you're a musician yourself, so did you attach? I mean, the idea of doing a musical, did that excite you? Except for the fact that you don't actually get to perform it.
Please use the term musician very loosely. No, I'm kind of a script person. I just like scripts. When scripts are good, when parts are interesting, when the characters are complex, and this particular character of the sort of curmudgeonly critic was really interesting. I think he didn't do a lot of the things that character usually does. Where he just kind of naysays on everything. He was a thoughtful and sort of complex and interesting guy, which is what really was what attracted me to doing it. The fact that it was a musical is just exciting, and then to have a chance to work with people like Hugh and Michelle and Zendaya and Zach and just the whole. It was a really a privilege to get to be around them.
Now, when he did that sort of sing through that playthrough, did he come to you with a sort of full vision of that character as well? Did he give you any articles or any thoughts or is that something that he allowed you to sort of play with?
Well, we talked a little bit about it. I think every part is different, and that how you approach it depends kind of on what it is. And with this one, because there was a lot going on historically at that time, it was in the middle of the Civil War. There was like a class war in New York City. There was a lot of stuff going on. And so I kind of poked around to see what I could find out about this character. There actually was James Gordon Bennett, who did write for the Herald, or was the founder of the Herald, actually. I don't know if he was actually a critic. And they sort of loosely, I feel like this movie kind of loosely deals with a lot of the facts. This is not a biopic. This is I don't even know how we describe it, but more of a kind of
fantasy dramatization.
Right, a fantasy dramatization of what Barnum and sort of beginnings of show business, quote unquote, was supposed to be. So yeah, but he talked to me a little bit about who he was and talked to the complexity of that character. And so
when you started pulling back the layers, were you surprised? I mean, P.T. Barnum's, his story is incredible. I mean, what were you surprised by? What were you shocked by? Was there any? I mean, how familiar were you with it before? I mean,
yeah, I don't.
Circus.
Truthfully, it's kind of I wasn't that familiar with like what his story was. I think we always heard that he was a huckster and kind of a, come on guys,
sly man.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pulling some tricks. And it was interesting to hear his story about how he was this sort of came from nothing, son of a tailor that really had to try and find a way to make it work in New York. And, that's such a great story of like somebody that sort of comes from not very much to like come to this city sort of on their own and try and figure out in an entrepreneurial way. And the fact that he was so creatively open, I deal with it as the character. The critic's job is to sort of, or what it should be, I think, is to be sort of at the tip of the spear of like what art is going to be, where it is going. And people at this time before Barnum, there was this kind of stuffy theater community, and they had never seen anything like this. I mean, he was Vegas before Vegas was Vegas.
Outsider in this elitist community.
I think that's right. And I think there's it's a really interesting idea about how art changes, how it becomes other things, how it moves and grows, and his sort of populist, in this current climate that we're in. It's interesting, this sort of like populist movement that really Barnum was a part of, and it caused a lot of, ruckus in the city. It caused people to take sides about it. And it's an interesting conversation, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, the movie's full of spectacle, obviously, and songs and, animals, that sort of thing. Did you get to actually witness any feats of entertainment or anything like that?
Yeah, well, there was a couple of times where I actually got to go when they were performing and people were on the trapeze, and I think Zendaya was doing stuff one day where she's flipping around up there.
Just casually, Zendaya,
and
flipping through the air.
I come from the theater, but I haven't done musical theater. And so for me, to be able to sing, to be able to dance is such a... sort of an other special gift that I have. I'm just a fan too. And so it was really nice to be in that. We shot at Steiner Studios in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and they had hollowed out this huge building where they used to make ships. It's this massive building where they built the sets, and to have all these people dressed in these crazy costumes like come flying out from behind a curtain and sort of perform and dance, and it was so moving for everybody, the crew, and everybody was sort of there as support, that each time takes would end, it would erupt into applause. And
like a live show.
It really was. It was really kind of a really nice thing to watch, and I just sat and glared at them.
The frowny face, exactly.
I glared at them the whole time.
Did you get to see Hugh and Zac Efron sing at all, or were they performing?
I saw them a little bit, sort of like through a crack. I watched them work in that in the bar scene, and man, those
bar scene is so good.
Those cats can go. It's really amazing.
Doing shots and dancing.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, how is it to act opposite him in a scene? Obviously, you know, Hugh, you can see it right there. He's got this infectious smile, and he's smiling right at you and keeping the frown, which you do a fantastic job of. I mean, congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
You should get an award for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how is it doing those scenes with him?
Well, he's very tall, and he's very handsome. He's he's muscular and graceful, and Hugh is. I just want to go on record and say he may be the nicest person I've ever met. Like he's one of the nicest people. He knows everybody's name on the whole crew. Everybody loves him. I was just shooting a movie down in New Mexico where he had done, Logan, I guess. And as soon as I get, Hugh Jackman, nicest guy I ever met. And they're right. He's that guy. He engages in everybody. He's very generous, and he's really generous in the scenes, and it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, he seems such a bigger star than myself. I wouldn't even think that he would even know who I was. And so to meet him and have him sort of be generous with me and include me and treat me just like anybody else, and that's how he is with everybody. It's an amazing guy.
It's amazing. And your beard looks fantastic in the movie.
Very big.
Was that a choice? How is it to grow that out?
Yeah, I feel like there needed to be somebody with a beard. And sort of a long, angular...
It's sharp, like the personality,
sharp,
absolutely.
Yeah, like a weapon. Yeah.
It was a great choice. It very much works in the character.
Yeah.
Well
done. That's a lot of my acting is based on my facial hair and costume.
Well, bravo. Well, let's get into another character, a clean-shaven character. We're going to talk about Waco a little bit. Tell us about this. This is an incredible true story. How familiar were you with this story before?
Yeah, Waco is about the sort of Branch Davidians and David Koresh siege, the 51-day siege that occurred in 1993 in Waco, Texas. This is a 6-part sort of TV miniseries on Paramount, which is the new channel that's sort of taking over for Spike. This is a complicated story. Everybody's probably heard of it, or most people have heard of it, that were alive then, or maybe even not. But I doubt very many people know the full sort of story. And what's special about this particular production, I think, because there was a movie of it many, many years ago, right after it happened, is that it's based on 2 books. One is by David Thibodeau, who was one of the survivors he was a Branch Davidian. And one is by Gary Nesner, who was the head FBI negotiator. And both of them were on set. They probably disagree somewhat on what went down. But it's such a tragic story. 79 people burned up in a building. I think over 80 people. 89, I guess, total people died. It's a real awful, one of the largest full-scale assaults on actual, the ATF came in with tanks and on their own people. It was really like crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy set of circumstances. And you take this very off-the-grid community of this kind of sect of Seventh-day Adventism, which is a particular sect that believes sort of in the rapture and that God is coming down, and it's complicated, a lot of revelation stuff. So these guys have got it going on, and then but the way they make money is they sell weapons at gun shows and things like that. So they're kind of have a lot of guns there. The ATF gets involved with trying to disarm this and sort of make it a public thing. They'd had some PR problems in the past, and I think they were trying to make something, and it just all goes wrong. And then they're stuck in this standoff that lasts all these days. It ends in this, really horrible way. But this looks at the people, not only that were inside the FBI and like those kind of people, but it really looks at the people that were also in the compound. And I was just talking with Taylor Kitchen, who plays David Koresh, and he's amazing. And Michael Shannon plays Gary Nesner, and he's also amazing. We were talking about how everybody wants to know, what do you think? You know, who did it? Who started it? And truthfully, I think these shows don't really even care in many ways. It's not important, like, who started. What's important is that all these people were affected, and they were real people who, you know, had sisters and brothers and mothers and fathers, and you know, they were just like us. And it's a really tough story.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about real people. I mean, you play Steve Schneider. I mean, what was it like getting into his mind and his situation, and what kind of research did you do into him?
Well, Steve Schneider was David Koresh's sort of right-hand man. He was, they met when he was in Hawaii. He was a theologian. He was getting his PhD in theology, and he and David kind of started working together. They were involved in bringing a lot of the people to the actual compound. And Steve was sort of beloved and a charismatic guy. And they, well, it gets really complicated, you know, because some of the things that David required the people to do, you know, Steve's wife ended up becoming pregnant with David's child, which is like hard to reconcile in your brain. I know, I can feel it happening as you listen to it.
You wouldn't believe it.
But when you really look at like how they were looking at it in terms of their religion, it made some sense, like why they were there. But Steve ends up being kind of the go-between, because David was shot on the first day. I mean, he was shot twice in the first day, and so it was hard to. He was not in a state to really negotiate, and so Steve was on the phone a lot in those first days or the whole time with the FBI.
And you mentioned Michael Shannon. You worked with him. You guys are friends. You guys worked on a few projects together. I mean, what's it like working with him time and time again?
Well, you know, I feel very fortunate. Mike is probably my best friend, and I've known him a long time. I don't even know how many years now, but we've done plays together and movies together, and we're friends, and our families know each other. And he's you know, he's such a specific guy. I find him to be one of the funniest people I know.
He's so intimidating, though. I can't imagine approaching
It's
him.
because his head is really big. It's like he has to have hats made for his head. It's so big.
Say he's a funny guy.
He's hilarious, but he's very dry, you know. I think he's has a really dry sense of humor, and if you're scared of him and he's making dry comments, sometimes it just comes off as more scary.
You've seen a few people crash and burn, I'm guessing, at a bar, sort of approach him.
And he also there's a part of him that kind of, a sadistic part that sort of enjoys them crashing and burning with him, I think, so. But he's
a PSA out there for you guys.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
It's amazing. I mean, talking about Waco, I mean, there's so many shows you've been a part of in the past couple of years, man. I'm not sure if it's luck. I mean, you're just at the right place.
It's definitely
doing
luck.
Great work. Yeah. The night of, you know, House of Cards. I mean, what are you getting approached? You know, what are people approaching you from the most? And how's it been like to have a run like this?
Well, I feel really lucky. You know, like I said earlier, I just read scripts and then I try and get them. You know, I'm just like it's not some magical thing or anything. I think it's really I read scripts, and if I feel like I could do it, if I could, then I try for it, and then hopefully they like me and they ask me to do it. That's mostly how it works. And I've just been super fortunate, you know, from Boardwalk Empire, when I sort of started, I've been allowed to play a lot of different kind of parts, and House of Cards is a totally different thing. And you know, I have been so lucky in terms of the prestige of the shows that I've done that I think it probably is bigger than me. I just happen to be a part of it. I feel really fortunate.
I don't think they give Emmy nominations for people who just happen to be places, man. Come on.
That had to be some sort of mistake.
No, I don't think it was. I think Thomas
didn't.
Yates, man, that was an incredible character. And working with Robin Wright in that final scene, I mean, what was it like shooting that and work? She directed that.
Right, she directed it. Yeah. Well, Robin is, you know, she's one of our best. There's no argument there. I think she's one of the most talented actresses you'll ever have the pleasure to work with, and also one of the best people. Like, I love her. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's hard, because she's directing a sex scene where she's spoiler,
Guys,
where
should see
she's
it by now.
yeah, it's too late, killing me, and to direct that and sort of trying to. Sex scenes are impossible. Death scenes are impossible, and we got to do both. And so it was hard, but she was lovely, lovely.
Do people approach you for that character a lot? Do you get most
About
of that?
Tom Yates?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Tom Yates is a somewhat polarizing character. I think people have a pretty strong opinion about whether they like what he is up to or not. A lot of people feel very protective of Claire, I think, and they want me to go away. Yeah, but it's good. No, people have always been really kind about that.
I can't wait to see what she does with the next season.
Yeah, it will be fascinating. Obviously, that is it's a tough situation that they're in, and I really feel for the people that their lives have been uprooted, and all this because of the stuff with Kevin, the stuff that has come out. It's very disappointing because we can't have that. We can't. That's not okay. We can't have that kind of behavior being around. And I think ultimately if what it costs us some growing pains of there being some hurt and some difficulties and some lost work and then fine, it's worth it. We cannot allow that kind of places to be unsafe for people to be around. So I'm disappointed, but I'm also excited for them because Robin is going to be great and they're going to be in good hands.
Absolutely. I think we have some questions in the audience, so we're going to throw it there.
Hi, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So going back to The Greatest Showman, it looked like such a cool movie. What was the best part about being a part of a period piece?
The costumes are amazing. I love costumes. I feel like they kind of stitch you into the person. You're not totally sure what it's going to be. And then the great thing about, they fit differently. They fit us differently. They hit you in different places in your body and make you stand in different ways. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about doing a movie like Greatest Showman, where they spared no sort of expense. I mean, I think my suits were made in Hungary or something. It was just really amazing to put those clothes on. I think it changes your whole DNA. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked amazing. Okay, next question.
Hi. So on Greatest Showman, were a lot of the performances actually done in real life, or did they have some CGI or special effects, and did they have people that were actually trainers that could perform those that they brought in for the movie?
Oh, I see what you mean. So in terms of do you mean sort of in terms of singing and dancing and all that stuff? I mean, I think there might have been a little bit of, I don't know who I know that was Michelle singing. I know that was, I know that those people, maybe Rebecca, but there were no animals used. It's sort of a very modern thing, which I think is extremely of good conscience. They did that. They didn't use animals, so that's all CGI. Michael Gracie is known for CGI. That's his thing. Before he started, that's where he comes from. It's CGI gets it. And so that beautiful stuff is him. He understands it. So all that kind of thing was done. But I mean, it's a musical, y'all.
You hear their voices. I mean, it's really their voices.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's beautiful.
yeah. No, it's them. It's them.
And the tigers they look real. Just go with it, guys. One last question.
Hey. So you've been an actor for a long time, and you've worked with a lot of really awesome actors. I wonder, is there anyone that has or that still would make you feel starstruck?
Yeah, you know what? I just answered this question. So, someone asked me this, and I told them that I was totally starstruck by them. But I can't remember who it was.
Say who it was. Come on.
No, hold on. I have to think.
Everybody quiet. Shh.
No, there's a lot of people out there that I'm starstruck by. I'm just like you. I watch TV too, and I remember shooting the first time I shot House of Cards. The very first scene I shot, I was sitting on the Air Force One in the office with the president, and then Robin was outside, and he was talking. I was like, oh, that's him. That's him. That's what. Yep, just like on TV. That's what it is. I mean, it doesn't change for me. You know, I'm just as. I still feel like myself, and so yeah, I still get nervous. I get nervous when I meet people, and I'm amazed, and I like it when they're really famous. I like it. It's funny. It's like cool.
Well, you're pretty famous yourself, man. You're fantastic in the movie The Greatest Showman, December 20th, and then Waco, Paramount Network in January, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. Another round of applause for Paul Sparks, guys.